crypto?
Well, let me give you, before I start, give you my disclaimer, which is that my views are my own and not necessarily those of the SEC or my fellow commissioners. So this has been, I've been at the SEC since 2018, and it's been a very interesting development to watch the knowledge of and interest in crypto increase in Washington. Senator Lummis is unusual in the depth of her knowledge on this topic, but more and more people in Washington, both at the regulatory level and here in Congress, are taking an interest in matters related to crypto. So one of the things that I've been calling for now for quite a long time is that we do need some clarity, and there has been an effort by regulators to try to assert jurisdiction in different ways. It's kind of funny that I'm sitting in for former Commissioner Brian Quintenz, who was at the CFTC. We are unusual in the United States in that we have two regulators of the capital markets. Typically, it's more common in other places for those two regulatory functions to be in one agency, but we at the SEC oversee the securities markets, the CFTC oversees the derivatives markets, and so we're often in a position where we're working closely together and sometimes competing with each other for jurisdiction. And I think you've seen that play out in the crypto space, where people first were looking to the SEC and saying, we want the SEC to be our regulator. Then they got frustrated with the SEC because we started taking a very enforcement-first approach and not providing any regulatory clarity that people wanted. So then a lot of people turned their attention over to the CFTC. And meanwhile, I think what we really need is to have some sort of legislative clarity because, again, we're not the ones at the regulatory level who get to decide who has jurisdiction. That's up to Congress. And so it's really good to see efforts underway in Congress to provide some of that clarity. But in the meantime, we are quite active on the enforcement side. We, of course, bring cases around frauds, but we've also brought a lot of enforcement actions against initial coin offerings, which we've charged as being securities offerings, and a range of other issues. So I expect that that will continue. JC mentioned that I put out several years ago a proposal for a safe harbor, which would allow us to achieve the objective of getting information out to people who are buying crypto assets, but also allow those crypto asset projects to move forward to a point where they're decentralized. And I think that's something that my colleagues at the SEC did not agree with me that we should put it out for comment, but I put it out for comment. I got some really useful feedback on that. And I still think that there is a need for us to recognize some of the unique aspects of crypto and to build a regulatory framework that makes sense for crypto specifically.
That's great. Well,
I do think that we created some regulatory pathologies. One, Chris mentioned there's a real emphasis on trying to prevent anything bad from happening, which I get it. I mean, I was working here in the Senate in August 2008 is when I started, and that was quite a chaotic time, and everyone was really obviously very concerned about what was going on and wanted to prevent something similar from happening in the future. But my biggest criticism of Dodd-Frank, and now that I'm a regulator, my job is to implement it, not to criticize it particularly. I can raise my concerns, but it shifted risk management from the financial institutions and market participants who should bear the consequences when they make bad decisions. It shifted it into the regulators so that now regulators are trying to risk manage on behalf of market participants. And that means market participants are not incentivized to look out after their own risks. And that is a very dangerous situation. And I think we need to make sure that whatever we do in the crypto world, we do not take away the incentive for people who are putting their own money on the line to watch what's happening with that money, to think before they invest, because we can't just put a protective cushion around everyone's activities and say, don't worry, if something goes wrong, we'll come in and we'll rescue you, because we were the ones telling you, trying to mitigate the risk.